Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing wonderful out there this morning and having a great start to your day and great week out there so far. As we inch a little bit closer to that weekend, here to break down the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We'll zoom into a couple areas of the country. We'll talk about everybody, of course, just like we always do across the entire lower 48, but we will zoom into a couple areas I'm watching for a little bit of a higher risk of flash flooding and a risk of strong to severe storms. So definitely take advantage of the timestamps. They are spread throughout the entire video for you folks to utilize. After we get done talking about the entire lower 48, we will break down the severe risk days to come, and if there is any, kind of between now and throughout the weekend, and the flash flooding risk days to come. We'll spend a couple minutes on that. Then after that, we'll give you an update on the tropics. There's some chatter out there in the weather community about a tropical wave potentially making it across the Atlantic and then getting closer to our backyard here in the lower 48, maybe the Southwest Atlantic, the Caribbean. And if it can survive, it will have a chance to develop. And really only one model is showing this, and that is the European model, which is a pretty reliable model. So we will talk about it, give you the latest information on that. We're not going to talk this to death. I don't want to spook anybody. It's never my intention. My intention is to keep people aware. But if this does continue to reoccur, and more importantly, if other model guidance like the GFS begins to latch onto this too, then certainly we need to begin to discuss it and try to figure it out. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you got anything that I can pray about or anybody else can pray over, please put those in the comments below. It's very important. I mean, it's pretty slow right now. If you need somebody to talk to, reach out to me through Facebook or Twitter X, and here to lend a ear for sure. You know, when it's slow like this, I have more time to spend on the comments, more time to spend with your messages and DMs and all that good stuff. So definitely do that. I'm here for you folks. And if you got any just individual questions about your specific area, I got you covered there. So let's get rocking and rolling. So as you can tell, there's a lot of moisture from the Texas coastline all the way up into like the Delmarva, like the mid-Atlantic. And then we got a spin up here from the actual a low pressure, this trough still in place that's affecting Quebec. So we got moisture, and the tail end of this, the southern extent of this huge broad spin up here in Canada is actually bringing some showers and storms down into Maine, and this could refire later on this afternoon. But the big storyline, I would say, is all this rain across the southeast and how it will continue. Guys, I picked up over 3 inches of rain between just after midnight, not last night, but the night before. Remember I was talking to you about those nasty storms that had my dogs going crazy. And then we got more rain later on yesterday evening. So I just wasn't a washout, but we had breaks in between. But we got a lot of rain in my neck of the woods. We've definitely just rapidly knocked out this drought here in portions of South Carolina. I don't want to speak for everybody, but a lot of rain falling across the coastal regions of Texas and getting into Louisiana. This will be an area we really need to pay attention to today, as a huge surge of tropical moisture is grinding up the Texas coastline. And Karen, you'll have to let me know what you're seeing up here in Montana. This particular radar does show a little bit of some light moisture return. Let me know what you're seeing up here if you're tuning in from the Rockies, not just Montana. Shows a little bit of moisture getting up here, so that's good. We'll have another opportunity for it later on today, maybe even a risk of strong to severe storms in areas in Montana. Middle of the country is pretty quiet. A little bit of storm action rumbling through western Illinois. Outside of that, the middle of the country is pretty just chill out there. So I do want to look at water vapor loop real quick. Not going to stay on this very long, but I think it shows what's going on very well. There's that spin that I just showed you on radar up here in Canada, quite literally spinning around up here. And then we have sort of this broken up trough that's kind of extending down here. Now, the flow around this trough is kind of going like this, and then it comes down to Mexico, and then it yanks up like this. And what this does is introduces what we call a southwesterly flow. So, I mean, not only is this kind of trough providing plenty of lift in the atmosphere for thunderstorm development, but more importantly, it's providing ample amounts of moisture getting pulled in from the Gulf of Mexico. So that's why, even though it hasn't been super hot across the southeast over the last, this week, it's been very, very muggy, maybe a little bit more humid than your average summer day. And that's just because there's a lot of juice in the atmosphere, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. This southwesterly flow is pulling in all this just moist air from the southern sections here of the northern hemisphere. But I mean, really just coming from the Gulf of Mexico, really a lot of moist air is getting pulled up. I mean, all the way into southern New England. So we're definitely dealing with plenty of moist flow out there. And then we got the ridge building up over this region. And we could have a little bit of energy, a little bit of a trough digging down here that could get those storms re-going here across Montana later on this afternoon. So we'll get all this off your screen, all those squiggly lines, and we'll keep this going. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We got flood watches that are continuing. More counties have been introduced into this across the Carolinas. Some heat advisories are down here in Florida. I know I had one comment a few days back say, Mitch, and they were very nice about it. They were not rude at all. Say, Mitch, your head's in the way here of South Florida. But you guys do have those heat advisories back down here in South Florida, like Miami. And you folks that live down here, you got flood watches, along the Texas coastline, southwestern sections of Louisiana. Excessive heat warnings spread across areas of Montana. Red flag warnings are now beginning to become much more widespread across the northern Rockies. We got excessive heat warnings in more of this purple color, red flag warnings in this pink color, where it's getting very dry and just a fire risk, a fire danger. Heat advisories have now oozed a little bit further east now, with the ridge is kind of moving a little bit further east. So it's going to be very hot in the Dakotas too, and not as widespread down here in the Southwest, but you still got heat advisories in the orange, and then excessive heat warnings in that purple color. Everybody else, nothing really going on. The excessive rainfall outlook. We need rain up here in Montana, of course, but no risk of flash flooding. I have a feeling if we got a lot of rain at one time in Montana, we would have a risk of flash flooding. We need the rain. We don't need it all at one time. We need just a steady, consistent rain up here in the northern Rockies. But we are getting plenty of rain across the southeast. In the yellow area, that is a slight risk. In the red area, that's a moderate risk. So the yellow area means there's at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. And then the red area is a 40% chance of that same criteria. So the southeast, definitely going to get a lot of rain. Even if you just live in the green area, you'll have an opportunity of flash flooding. That's a 5% risk. So just because you don't live in, the yellow area or the red area, that doesn't mean that there's like no chance of flash flooding. So there still is a risk with these tropical downpours. This Storm Prediction Center, there's that marginal risk up in Montana. So that dark green, that's a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Same for you folks down here in Arizona, a very small portion of New Mexico. Tucson, Arizona, marginal risk of severe weather. And then we have the Carolina marginal up here, over here in North Carolina, level 1 out of 5 risk. So these storms will most likely pack a punch, a little bit more of a punch probably in eastern North Carolina, maybe the PD of South Carolina, oozing into extreme southeast Virginia. We had just one of those weird tornado warnings across southern Virginia yesterday, and then it happens. You can get a tornado any month out of the year, So, could be one of those weird days today. But I would say out of all these areas, that the biggest risk is just some gusty winds and maybe a little bit of hail. So the tornado risk is pretty low, but of course, it is not non-existent. But let's go on and move into the southeast, of course, like we always do. We take this broad look at things, and you can tell what's going on. I mean, all the moisture kind of moving west to east. I mean, you can say southwest to northeast. And, by the time we get into early this afternoon, 1 to 2 p.m., depending on your time zone, a lot of moisture in Texas, Louisiana. We'll talk more about Louisiana and Texas in the south central time stamp. But, we take it to about the middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, widespread shower and storm activity. Basically, just name a state across the south, and you do have the risk of showers and storms. But I would say especially Georgia through the Carolinas and Virginia. Look at all this. All right, come on, cooperate for me. Look at all this shower and storm activity across the Carolinas. And listen, flash flooding is going to be a concern today across especially the central and eastern Carolinas. We're already saturated. It's very wet, especially areas that's already picked up several inches of rain, or even just a few inches of rain over the last couple days. Like my location here in Lexington, South Carolina, we picked up 3, 4, 5 inches of rain over the last few days. So definitely widespread flooding as possible in certain areas. So we continue to move into this evening, get into the overnight hours, and of course things will kind of chill out a little bit, but we're still going to be dealing with a lot of moisture along the Gulf coastline. So really scattered activity across the deep south, even more widespread activity across Georgia and the Carolinas. And, we take a zoomed in look at the Carolinas and all these states included. And we get to about 1 to 2 p.m. We got these storms from Atlanta to the Greenville-Spartanburg area to Charlotte. Just tropical downpours across almost all of North Carolina. And then we could get some, if the sun can come out, some big time heating can occur. We can get to like 88, 90, 92 degrees in these areas. Then the atmosphere is going to become unstable. And this is when we can get more of a severe element. For example, even though we only had the marginal risk in this area of North Carolina, we could get some nasty storms back here in the Midlands of South Carolina too. Look at this line developing here, extending from northeast Georgia through the Midlands of South Carolina, all the way through eastern North Carolina. And this will just kind of move from west to east and bring a lot of heavy rain, maybe frequent lightning. And just be aware of this today. A lot of people want to ask me, Mitch, when is it going to rain today, or is it going to rain today? All I can say is there's a decent chance this afternoon to this evening. I don't know what time it is. Guys, this is just kind of one of those days and these setups where just ignore your hourly forecast. I don't understand why it was created, and a lot of people use it because it's a great tool. And I would use it too in a way, but I think the way people use it as like gospel is just, it's not smart. I'm telling you, I tell people this at work all the time, and they just look at me cross-eyed, and I can tell they're not taking in anything that I'm saying, or not just at work, anywhere. You got to download a reliable radar on your phone. I think it's just very important. Radar Scope, I'm always going to promote that because that's the one I use. I don't have anything against Radar Omega or any of these other sites, but there's free ones too. The Weather Channel one, I don't know about that one, but I'm telling you, don't look at these Futurecast models, and I know that's kind of what I'm showing you, but this is kind of the only thing I can look at. But when you know there's storms around, just download a reliable radar. Radar Scope's $10 a year, and you can plug in your location on this app. It has an icon that tells you exactly where it is. It's deadly accurate. That's my one time a video spiel there. But as far as how much rain can fall over the next 24 hours, a lot of widespread rain is expected across the eastern Carolinas. I mean, from Columbia to Fayetteville to Raleigh points east, 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain could fall today. That's why you have the slight risk. But you can get a good bit of rain back here in the western Carolinas too, in Georgia, up here in southeast VA. So some of these storms will be severe too. Just remember that. There's going to be a severe element to these. Up here in the northeast today, there's not a ton to talk about. About midday, we could get some storms that fire up that sweeps through Maine. Definitely a storm risk. Got a loyal viewer. I know I got several viewers up here in Maine, but I got one that I know that comments every single day. I think you said that you were in my state and you took a plane back to Maine. You said it got delayed, but hopefully you got home safely, man. But you definitely probably going to have I got to stop saying that. Definitely probably are going to have a risk of some storms today up here in Maine. You get south and southwest throughout the rest of New England. Some spotty showers and storms are possible. In fact, you get to about 4 p.m. It does show a storm risk from, D.C. all the way up the I-95 corridor. So there will be a chance of some scattered showers and storms in these areas, especially, I would say, the mid-Atlantic, the Delmarva, the Tidewater area. You see these storms in this region that potentially could pack a punch. And then, you get into a little bit, about bedtime tonight. If you live in Delaware, some storms could be rumbling through. And then we get into the overnight hours and definitely a much more calm scenario. Guys, sorry, I had a towel right at my feet and it was really aggravating me. But anyways, that's the Northeast for today. The South Central U.S., most of everybody is pretty quiet. The only people that aren't is the Texas, southern Texas and Texas coastline to Louisiana. But we will take a broad look at everybody. And for my folks that's getting cut off down here in Texas, trust me, I'm about to zoom into y'all. But everybody, I do want to show some shower and storm activity could creep up into southern Arkansas today. So if you live in southern Arkansas, you're tuning in, Some storm activity is possible. How much further north will this get? Not sure. We'll have to watch, but later this evening it does show some storm action creeping into northern Texas, even southeast Oklahoma, even some downpours into southern Missouri. And then we get into tomorrow morning and we're just reamping this again and doing it all over again. A lot of heavy storm activity across Houston and, starting to ooze into Louisiana. But a closer look at our friends down here in South Texas. This morning, HRRR, her model, verifying pretty well. We take it to about midday. I want to watch this. There's almost looks like there's a little spin right here. Kind of right up next to like the Matagorda Bay here, Victoria. It almost looks like there's a little bit of a spin that tries to form over the Gulf of Mexico and then works its way inland. This can happen sometime when you get these blobs of energy that kind of get over the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes a stalled frontal boundary will kind of re-energize and get an area of energy. And if that area of energy forms over a body of water this time of the year, the Gulf of Mexico is like rocket fuel right now. So I want to watch a little bit of a spin. If you kind of go back and look at the water vapor loop down here, that's it right there. See if something can get going. I doubt it, but it will be interesting just to kind of watch. I don't know if that'll end up being a storyline or not. But kind of going back to this here, we take it to this afternoon, maybe some breaks here and there, but still a shot at showers and storms from Brownsville up the Texas coastline to the Louisiana-Texas border. And you actually might get a little bit of a break this afternoon, this evening, and then this will get re-fired up into the overnight hours of Houston, Galveston. Heavy storms over the area could cause flash flooding issues, just kind of right over the same area. We don't need any flooding in this area. This is right where Beryl made landfall. But we're waking up tomorrow morning doing it all over again. So yeah, how much rainfall? Jeez. How much rainfall it could fall over the next 24 hours? I mean, they're saying between what's falling now, you got to add in what's falling now, and the next 24 hours, Matagorda Bay area, I mean, over a half a foot of rain could fall. Brownsville, maybe an inch or so. Houston, widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain. Corpus Christi, kind of the same thing, but a lot of rain, basically along that coastline of Texas, and then maybe an hour or two inland will definitely fall. And then we work our way a little bit further to the northeast into Louisiana. Don't want to leave you guys hanging. And we take it to about 1 p.m. Some rain showers trying to fully get into Louisiana. I think they finally do Lake Charles to Shreveport, all the way up to maybe Tyler, Texas, Dallas. Could potentially get some action. Southern sections of Arkansas will start to get some storm activity, especially once you get south of Arkansas into Louisiana. And we could get some big storms that fire up in southeast Louisiana kind of later this evening, 9 to 10 p.m. And then we'll just continue to just get this very moist flow that continues just to trail off into Louisiana throughout the overnight wee hours of the morning hours into tomorrow morning. We're going to deal with it again, waking up to more storm activity tomorrow. So if we do look how much rain could fall in this area over the next 24 hours, and let's just go on and just take it out to about the next 48 hours. It does show, especially as we're getting into tomorrow, a lot of this rain getting into northeast Texas. I think this is more so, I would say this is more so for tomorrow, but look at all this rain on the northern Texas coastlines, extreme southwestern, just western Louisiana in general. Widespread 1 to as much as 3.5 inches of rain, but you could get some rain all the way into Jackson too in these areas. So up into the north central U.S., check these temperatures out. I always like to show love to you folks up here. I didn't realize how chilly it was getting. I'll be honest, completely admit. I didn't realize how chilly it was getting yesterday for last night, for this morning for you guys in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. You guys have to let me know if you're tuning in from this area, how cold it is. Definitely give me your reports. I know I got some viewers from this area. Steven, I believe your name is Lisa. I almost didn't even want to take a risk at saying it, but I know I got 2 very loyal viewers here in the UP of Michigan. I know I see y'all comment to each other every once in a while. If it's not Lisa, I do apologize, but as soon as I see it, I'll know it. But anyways, let me know how chilly it is up here. I would love to know. I don't want to say it's getting to that time of the year where we start to see some of these cold fronts dip down. This is what I want you to do. And so we got time, if you're in the comments, let me know and you're tuning in not just from Wisconsin or Michigan or Minnesota, but even Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, let me know up here. I love this kind of stuff. I don't know why. But let me know when you can really start to feel the shift from summer to fall. Is it like in August? I've heard people say it's kind of like mid to late August in this portion of the country. Let me know when you really start to see the subtle changes that you're kind of, I guess, breaking the back of summer, starting to move from summer to fall. Is it sometimes this time of the year? I know that your window, especially the further north you get for summers, is much shorter than it is, say, down here in Kentucky, Missouri. But I know that this happens, sometimes during the summer. But this is pretty chilly conditions up here in the upper Midwest for sure. I mean, 40s, looks like maybe some upper 30s in the interior sections of the UP. Chilly morning into northeast sections of Minnesota. Minneapolis even into the 50s. It looks like, maybe just off the shoreline of Lake Michigan, Milwaukee, maybe the upper 50s. I can tell you, I cannot wait down south to that first September cold front where the low time temperatures, the low temperatures get down to like the upper 50s. It is such a wonderful and glorious thing when it happens. So, but anyways, as far as weather, it's quiet, being dominated by high pressure. Again, to this evening, nothing's going on. We'll have to watch that energy kind of making its way into the western Dakotas. But yeah, there's nothing really going on up here today. Enjoy your nice day that you have in store. No weather, just quiet. But the western U.S., interesting kind of setup here, as you are going to have enough flow out there, enough lift for widespread showers and storms. It's just who gets them. We'll stop it here. Show some storms in Nevada, southern sections of Idaho, widespread storm activity down here in Arizona, especially southern Utah, a little bit of activity in western Colorado, western New Mexico, a little bit of a downpour shower storm activity in Wyoming. But I want to see what really happens in central Montana today, getting into eastern Montana, as we're going to have to watch a line of storms that develop. But as we get into tomorrow morning, it's quieter, but a little bit closer look at our friends up here in Montana. I know, it's Karen, you keep voicing your concern about the drought up here, and I believe you. I'm not saying I don't. What I'm trying to lead to is, it is wild. The lack you're hearing, I'm not hearing much about this anywhere besides what I see in the comments. I know I don't watch news much, but I am very active in the weather community, on Twitter and stuff like that. And you're not hearing much about this drought and these wildfires up here in the community. So thank y'all for keeping me aware. But let me know how much rain you got yesterday, if you got any. But unfortunately, it does look like these storms are going to fire up only in central Montana and kind of spread into eastern Montana. We really need some widespread rain in this area of Montana, which I believe is dealing with the worst of the drought, extreme drought conditions. But this will kind of form and then head off to the east. And But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, it does show just splashes of rain here and there. I don't think anybody's going to get any more than a quarter to a half an inch out here. But hopefully people can get some rain today and just over the next several days. They have not seen much of it. Definitely praying for you folks that's dealing with these nasty drought conditions. But the eastern areas of central U.S., temperature-wise, a nice day in the northeast. Definitely more humid the further south you get, with that flow getting yanked up from this trough. Pocket of a little bit warmer air across the Ohio Valley, 80s, 90s. You see these pockets of cooler temperatures right here across the south. That is because of cloud cover rain. So don't think that, for example, you see 78 degrees here just east of Charlotte. Don't think that's a nice crisp fall-like 78 degrees. That is a very humid 78 degrees. I think people forget about humidity levels, and don't take into account that just because you see below average temperatures coming up, that it is still going to be humid. You cannot get rid of the humidity in the south this time of the year. Absolutely not. It takes one of those very late August, early September cold fronts to really knock the humidity down. And it's a process. It's a process of getting these cold fronts to really work down. And even, the first couple cold fronts, and normally in the south, and sometimes they don't make it until October. And 2018 is a great example of it. I don't think it got below 60 degrees here in Columbia until like October 11th. It took Hurricane Michael coming in and getting pushed out by a cold front before the temperatures dropped below 60 degrees. So sometimes it takes deeper into the year to happen. But, of course, it's not too bad across the eastern U.S. It really isn't. Temperatures across the western U.S., the Pacific Northwest is pretty nice. You got some troughing in place, so cooler temperatures. You get south of this trough and this boundary. It's not near as hot in the Valley of California today, but still very warm, upper 90s, low 100s, very hot across the desert Southwest. It always is this time of the year. And then the northern high plains, temperatures well into the 100s. Someone will try to sneak and get to 110 today in the high plains up here in the western Dakotas and eastern Montana. That'd be wild. I want to definitely look at real-time observations later this afternoon and see how hot you are. I got to remember to do that. But check out this boundary in place over the Dakotas where it goes in the western half of the Dakotas. You're in the 100s. You get to the eastern half of the Dakotas, low to mid 80s. So you can tell there's a trough in place, boundary in place here. So moving past this, the severe weather outlook for tomorrow, just a general risk of thunderstorms for now for Friday in the light green. There is a marginal risk here across the high plains and then one across the upper Midwest that includes Fargo, Grand Forks, the border of North Dakota and Minnesota. So we will watch for that. Just a level 1 out of 5 risk for now. Flash flooding risk for tomorrow. We'll do it again across the Carolinas. A slight risk in place. I bet you $10 they will introduce a slight risk down here for the Texas coastline and areas of Louisiana. I bet you they will. But we'll see what happens there. But there is a slight risk, at least a 15% chance of flash flooding exceeding, flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles at any given point. Then we get into Saturday. I do want to watch maybe for a little bit more of a higher severe weather risk across the northern tier of the country, areas of the Dakotas, Minnesota, down to Nebraska. But right now, just a marginal risk. And of course, we do have that general risk of thunderstorms in the light green. And then we get into the excessive rainfall outlook for day 3, which is Saturday. No slight risk at all, just, huge areas of marginal risk. So nothing too concerning as of now for that. So, all right, let's give you an update on the tropics. Of course, I always start off by looking at this. Tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days per the National Hurricane Center. So nothing, no area of interest, nothing actually out there to track. Now, I want to show you this tropical wave, and this thing looked way more impressive when it was still over northern sections of Africa yesterday afternoon. So this is our wave, I wouldn't say of interest, but is something we were watching and how the models latch onto this. So if you don't know where we're at, like I said, this is the west coast of northern Africa. Okay, so these are where our tropical waves kind of come. They kind of come off North Africa, and then they get over the tropical Atlantic, the eastern Atlantic basin, and then we'll see if they can survive. And, a lot of times this time of the year, obviously Beryl being an outlier here, an abnormal kind of setup. But even into late in July, we don't typically get tropical waves that are very active and make it across the Atlantic basin. And we got to get deeper into August and early September. And then once we get to about late September, what we call main development region, MDR for short, tropical Atlantic, begins to shut off, and we have to focus our attention back into the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico as we kind of wrap up hurricane season. So this was a big robust tropical wave. As soon as it got over the Atlantic this morning, overnight, you see that deep convection indicated by these vibrant colors right here, and then it just kind of disappears. It just vanishes. Says, all right, man, I'm out. I think that is because it encounters a lot of dry air, a lot of stable conditions, and it just basically, for the time being, really choked out this tropical wave. Is it going to refire some convection? That is something we have to watch. But I want to show you our area of interest, even though it's not dubbed by one from the National Hurricane Center. We're watching this tropical wave. So I'm going to look at the 850 millibar Vort Max here. And basically, you're just going to see slashes of areas of yellow and just some darker yellows, some oranges, maybe even some reds on your screen. Okay, this indicates energy in the low levels of the atmosphere, about a mile up. So we kind of look at these wind barbs you see here and see if they're kind of spinning kind of rotating around each other? And does it have some sort of cyclonic spin to it? So we keep this going. And there's the wave. You see it's very broad. You see the wind barbs kind of going this way, and then they come out the north, and they come out the northwest and the west. And they're kind of spinning here, but it's a very broad, elongated spin. Certainly not a healthy tropical wave. But keep your eyes, let's see if we can draw on this. Keep your eyes on this energy. And it's going to be hard to keep your eyes on it because it's going to go everywhere as it continues to make its way across the tropical Atlantic. And this is the latest European model, by the way. So here it goes, very slowly, getting into Sunday. You can barely see it. I mean, I can even barely see it. We get into next Monday. If you don't know where it is, it's right here. That's our energy. Looks like there's a bigger tropical wave trying to get going right here. We'll have to see what happens with that. But it looks like that one tries to get, just about gets wiped out too. But let's focus on this one. That's our tropical wave trying to get into the Lesser Antilles, into the Caribbean. And it continues, and then it kind of encounters the Greater Antilles, Hispaniola, Puerto Ricos of the world. So we'll stop it right here. This takes us all the way until literally a week from today. It takes us to the morning of August 1st. Okay, so we kind of continue this. Let's make sure that this is the right. Let's go back to this, and we're good. So we kind of continue this into the Caribbean, Southwest Atlantic. Here comes that wave. You see that area in yellow. It's hard to tell. It really is, and I hate that, but it just tells you this is a weak tropical wave. But the flow around this is kind of going like this. It's just basically this broad kind of elongated. I wouldn't even call it a spin. It really isn't. Just a very weak tropical wave with no low-level circulation at the end of the day. So, obviously it's not like a depression or anything like that. But that is our energy. That is our energy right into here. So, get this back off your screen. We keep this going. What does this energy do as it kind of rides over the Greater Antilles? It looks like that it's about to try to get its act together right in here. You see how there's more vibrant yellows, even some orange shades right in here. It looks like this wave is trying to get maybe going. But what I want you to notice here, compare this run, okay, this is the current run from overnight, to the run last night, and then the two runs prior to this. So it was 3 runs in a row until we hit last night's run. Watch how more robust this tropical wave is on the run yesterday afternoon from the European. So there it is. Now that's much easier to see right here. This is our little tropical wave. Watch what happens. It gets north of the Greater Antilles, okay, and then you see how that thing consolidates and then turns into a full-fledged, what this would be is a tropical storm. In fact, you look at this. This is getting right into the Bahamas. If you actually look at the pressure of this storm, that is a 996 millibar low. That would make it a tropical storm. Would be Tropical Storm Debbie. But that was the run yesterday. You look at the run now, and what it shows? Just shows an area of a lower pressure in the blue. That's it. Okay, you look at the run from not last night, but the night before. Okay, showed that low there. But I want you guys to note the brain fart here. The GFS shows nothing. It shows nothing. It really does not latch onto this at all. But I do want to show you some ensemble guidance, and I'm going to actually do this on the fly here because I meant to pull it up, and that's why I just brain farted, because I just thought about it. Yeah, I did not pull this up. So we're going to look at the ensemble guidance from this and see what the signal is. And it's very everywhere. In fact, we're only going to go out kind of so we can focus on this a little bit more. Remember, the European ensemble, the EPS, makes up 51 members. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 11-ish members out of 51 that shows anything developing. But if you go to the 12Z run from yesterday, it's a lot more members. So it kind of dropped off. So we had 3 runs in a row where it got kind of progressively more aggressive looking. And then the last night's run kind of dropped off. So we just have to watch this, guys. And this is my theory on this. I think that we're going to have some I think that this signal is going to completely disappear for a few days, and then I think it will have the opportunity to reappear. And the thing is you can see, this is the sun coming up on the Atlantic basin here, right? And I'm going to try drawing this. Yeah, you can see that pretty well. That is our tropical wave. You can see it right here. You see it indicated by the clouds and all that cool stuff. But if you look right here, you can see all this dust kind of in this area. That, if you, let's see if I can do this. You see, if you can see that shade of light brown right in here, that is Saharan dust. And I'm going to get this back off your screen and pause it right here. Okay, that's where the sun is coming up. You see how the sun is making the Atlantic nice and beautiful, which it is. But you can see it right here. You see the dust right in here? I'm going to try to draw an outline. Oh, there it is. Still have the outline pulled up. That is the Saharan dust. You can see kind of that shade of brown right in here. That is our wave going to enter all of that. Okay? And, you know, it's already being affected by it. It's already entering a ton of dust right into here. So dry air already really hitting this tropical wave hard. The thing is, you got a couple things going on here. Two things. One, the upper wind pattern is going to become much more favorable if this wave can survive all this dust into here. The upper wind pattern will be probably much more favorable into here. More than likely. We think it is. Okay. Another thing is, remember I was talking to you about the MJO phase and how we have a rising phase moving in from the west to the east? That's going to be moving into this area. So if that tropical wave can make its way that way, favorable upper wind pattern, record-breaking high sea surface temperatures, favorable MJO phase, the rising air, kind of slowly at least being introduced into this area by the time this wave gets into this area, if it survives here in the next week or so. You could have a combination of favorable conditions that develop in kind of this huge circled area I just did. It's just the big question is, does this survive? Does that wave survive the main development region? And honestly, guys, if I had to say, is it or is it not, I would say it is not. What I am saying is models are going to go back and forth on this. That is my take on this. Like, for example, we could completely lose this, any model guidance on this for the next 5 or 6 days. And then all of a sudden, models might latch back onto it somewhere in here. If the energy associated with this wave can somehow survive a very hostile tropical Atlantic that has a lot of dry air in it. So we will watch. Listen, everything out here is a ticking time bomb. It is. We saw what happened with Beryl. It was very abnormal. It was an anomaly. It was very weird. But at the same time, it wasn't, because we've been hounding it for months now, how this hurricane season has the potential to be historic. And Beryl just had a little bit of wiggle room, meaning even though there was dry air on top of Beryl, it cocooned itself so well, it was able to take advantage of all the other favorable conditions. The record sea surface temperatures for that area of the ocean this time of the year, that time of the year that it was in, back in late June, early July, and the very favorable upper wind pattern that was there. So it basically said, you know, forget your Saharan dust. I have all the conditions in the world because I've protected my core. So these tropical systems, they just have a kind of a, you know, just a life of their own. I mean, they figure themselves out here sometimes, and Beryl was a great example of that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if these systems have, you know, any avenue to really take advantage of all the other favorable conditions, they will. And that's why we're kind of worried that once the Saharan dust settles down and that favorable MJO phase kind of moves in, and the upper wind pattern gets much better, which we were expecting it to do. Plus, steering current wise, we're seeing the long range ridging over the entire tropical Atlantic. Then that's when we get concerned for whatever that can get developed in this region right here. It's just going to go potentially east to west, and then you know, affect landmass. So we just got to watch things. And I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but the conditions are favorable. They're going to get favorable. That's what I'm trying to say, and it's certainly something we need to watch here in the coming weeks. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I haven't forgot about giving you guys a really big update on the tropics. It'll probably come sometime this weekend, and we'll definitely re-go over everything and what I'm seeing in the long range as far as steering currents, the favorability and the pattern for the tropics and all that good stuff. So God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.